JB, what do we have going on here?
This is the stainless steel trim that is unique to the 53 Skylark only. And so it takes a great deal of work. The pieces were originally made out of stainless steel, even back in the 50s. People think stainless is a recent invention. It goes way back. And it was very, very useful for small production. It still is used in small production, custom types of things, because you can actually polish the virgin metal instead of worrying about having to have something plated after the fact, which would become an increasing problem with everything.
Right.
Stainless steel is unique in the sense that it polishes to the same luster almost as chromium. Remember, chrome is copper to fill, nickel to provide brilliance, and chromium is what goes over the nickel. And what you're doing is when you see chrome, you're looking through chromium into nickel.
Interesting.
And the copper's underneath to do the bodywork or the filling.
Okay.
So we don't have that in this particular type of material. The factory originally made them out of stainless steel for this very reason. They only made 1,200 cars.
Right.
That's a tiny fraction of cars in the big picture. So there was no budget to have cast chrome for a few hundred cars.
Okay, now just make sure I understand correctly. So this was only in 53.
Yes.
And only for the Skylark model.
Only the Skylark,
not the
only.
Buick lineup.
Didn't exist on the rest of the lineup.
Okay.
Again, they thought that they would make more cars.
Okay.
They didn't. But even at that, if they'd made 3 times as many cars as they made, which was still a tiny number, they still would have had to use a much less expensive type of trim, simply because there weren't enough of them to justify all the tooling.
Okay, so how do you make stainless trim? Like,
okay, firstly, we took originals, we made patterns off them, we digitized them, we sent them over to the Waterjet machine. A Waterjet machine cuts them exactly the right profile on the exterior, but remember now that these have a curve to them. Okay, so they are a compound curve. They curve this way and this way.
Okay.
So if you look down the end of this, you can see that subtle curve. That's original.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah.
It isn't correct to just make these flat and bolt them on the car.
Flat
Then we weld stainless pins on the back of the piece.
Okay.
There's nothing but a hex head bolt, machine screw really, made out of stainless. It's spot welded to the back.
So stainless
and that lines up with the holes that were originally provided by the factory.
Okay.
So we're kind of halfway through the process. These have been rounded. These are in the process of being sanded and polished. So you can see the next phase is coming along here. When we're done, they'll be mirror finish.
Yeah, so we're kind of seeing a diamond in the rough, so to speak.
Exactly.
Here. Okay. I got you.
This is the whole process, and it's lots and lots of hours here. A lot of work.
How do you manage to get that shape into the flat metal?
The way we do that is we have a bead roller right here. Now the bead roller allows you to feed the metal into the bead roller, and this bead roller rises and falls, and it dictates the amount of curve that you want to create in the metal. So I'm going to feed this through this back and forth. I can adjust it. This crank over here raises and lowers it and turns the metal so it'll draw it through this process and put that curve in it. Remember too that this goes in a different direction, okay?
Yeah, right.
So you manually, you have to be so tuned into this thing that you realize that this thing cannot go off center. So as you're going around the corner, it wants to keep going.
Sure.
And you can't say, no, it's got to stay on the center line.
You got to guide it straight the whole way.
Exactly. So the skill level to do something like this is over the moon. Okay.
All right.
It's an eye-hand contact that only exists in a few human beings, as near as I can tell.
I see.
I couldn't do this under any circumstances, but Tony is such an incredible craftsman that this just came to him naturally.
Now those rollers I see at the end, are those like shaping bits that you can exchange out for different shapes?
If you want different curves, you can buy different males and females. You notice they come in male and female.
Okay.
As the metal goes in, it subtly draws it down, and then you roll it back and forth, and then you create a closer curve, and it curves the metal further. So you take it in steps. Each one of these was done a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. and then you do a little bit more on the second pass.
Okay.
Always remembering that this thing has to be adjusted, and that gap has to close up in order to create a more severe curve.
I got you. Okay.
And, that is eye contact,
Yeah,
mental
it's a combination of just time, labor,
craftsman,
and
labor.
knowing what you're doing.
There are precious few people that can do it.
Yeah.
This is a brass hammer that
Okay.
he uses in order to form the various shapes that he wants. And this is a hammer he made himself, if you can imagine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is handmade. He
Wow.
makes almost all of his own tools, and since he's a wood grainer, you see, he also wood grains his handles.
Of course he does.
I'm gonna have to talk to you about that. Okay.
Right.
But he has probably over 200 tools that he's made for himself. He's self-taught.
Yeah.
Nobody comes in here and tells him how to curve metal or do wood graining.
Kidding.
Any of that. It comes from instinct.
So do you have the molds, going back to this Skylark, do you have the molds for all of the trim for the 53 Skylark?
We do, and I think there's a total of 13 pieces.
Yeah, it looks like at least that many.
They're all different.
Yeah.
And of course you got a gas door which breaks it up, so you got a little tiny piece that's here. This is the one that goes on the gas door.
Okay.
All right, and this is behind the gas door, and this is probably in front of the gas door.
Okay, right.
So that line has to go right straight through it, so it doesn't break up the line of the trim.
Right. Yeah, so that, okay, it is a lot of work.
Yes, it is.
Very good. Well, thanks for helping us understand a little better what's involved in putting this thing together.
And when we get it polished up, you'll see the end product. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, right on. We'll look it up for that.
You
Thanks.
bet.